Welcome to the Dowden Podcast. I'm your host, the official CRG, and today we are going to talk about why it's so important for you to start to take control over that stress in order to reach that full potential. But before we get started, make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. That way you don't miss any weekly episodes and posts. You can find a video of this episode strictly on YouTube, but the audio everywhere else. Now, when it comes to learning how to manage that real stress in your life, this definitely isn't an easy task because it can be brought on by anything at any time, big or small. Whether it's through relationships, finances, work, you name it, stress can have a giant factor in it, making it very hard to see the positives and try and keep going day by day. But if you truly want to take control and you truly want to see that real growth, you want to reach that full potential, then you have to learn how to take control of that stress. Because if you don't, it will take control over you. Because you see, when it comes to just that stress overall, this has way more control over our bodies and our minds than people actually think. Because when you truly do go and get stressed out, it then literally throws your brain into this fight or flight mode. Hence, why your heart rate then starts to rise and your thoughts start to clutter, even having it increase your depression and change your eating habits based on the severity of the stress and how often it happens. And this is something that I didn't learn until very recently because I knew that when you got stressed out, it did make you anxious. I knew it made you overwhelmed because that's exactly what would happen to me. But the second I learned that it could increase your depression, it could change your mood, it could cause eating disorders, I really started to put two and two together because that's exactly what was happening. I didn't understand it, but the more I did my research, I was finding out that the stress in my life was the main cause for a lot of the problems. And in order to really grow, in order to really reach that full potential, I first had to take control over it because it was slowly taking control over me. And when I tell you that it was taking control of me, it genuinely was controlling my day to day life, having me get to certain points where I would go through these mood swings. I would go through these different ups and downs, and my depression would feed off it. So I would go into just these constant loops for weeks at a time. There was even points where I just wouldn't even have my first meal until 8 p.m. because I was so stressed out, because I would constantly overwhelm myself. Because when you are stressed, you are supposed to handle things one by one. You're supposed to see it through. You're supposed to really take your time with it. But instead, I then would overwhelm myself and try to handle all of these tasks all at once. I would literally be working on things 3 weeks in advance when I haven't even handled tomorrow's situation. So because I would do that, I would overwhelm myself so much and I would stay in this just deep stress. And it genuinely was taking control of every single little thing that I would do. So, understanding that real stress truly can take control of your life is so important because, as you see with me, that's exactly what would happen. I would go and overwhelm myself. I would take on all of these tasks at once, thinking I could do it, thinking it would be easier. But in all reality, it was just basically putting up a wall between me and that end goal. Because when you take on so many tasks, you are going to overwhelm yourself. You're going to clutter your brain. You're going to have those negative thoughts. You might even experience that self doubt because you're not able to get that task done. But the reason for that is because you're taking on too much. You need to slow down. You need to try and get your thoughts together because, like we said, when you do go and get stressed out, it literally throws your brain into this fight or flight mode. And you are not going to beat your brain. You have to calm down before you can collect yourself. So, if you are struggling with that stress just like I was, then now is the time to really start to take control. When those moments happen, find a way to just take a step back. If you need to, go talk to a friend, go talk to a therapist, change certain situations around you. You need to find that root cause for that stress, because stress is something that is going to happen no matter what you do. No matter what we go through, no matter what experience, what situation, there is always going to be stress. That is something that we cannot control. But what we can control is how we handle it and how we then let it affect us moving forward. So, next time you are faced with a situation that is stressful, instead of sitting there for 7, 6, 5 hours just trying to work it out, hammer it out, try and get it done, take a 30-minute break. Walk yourself through it. Tell yourself, you know what? This is just a little problem. If this is the worst that's going to happen today, then we are going to be good. You have to take control over your mind and this stress, because it will rule your life. Start taking control, make it happen. Do not make excuses, because stress is the biggest excuse maker. Whenever you go through stress, you're going to think it's too hard. You're going to think you can't do this. You're going to think so and so. But if you can take control over your mind, you can make it happen, then there is no reason why you can't reach that full potential. But with that said, today's quote is by William James. He once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." I appreciate you tuning in. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And this is the Dowden Podcasts.